Near the end of the 19th century, industrial technology had advanced to the point where production could be exceeded beyond what anyone could have hoped. The discovery of oil as a new energy source replaced coal of the last century. With that came the development of the internal combustion engine, which led to the telegram, the telephone, the automobile, and faster trains. This was also the age of the captains of industry. Andrew Carnegie established Carnegie Steel, which built modern Pittsburgh. John D. Rockefeller founded Standard Oil, and Cornelius Vanderbilt practically controlled the entirety of American transportation with his monopoly on the American railroad system. Vanderbilt's net worth totaled in upwards of $185 billion. Carnegie sold Carnegie Steel for nearly $304 million, which totals to about $10 billion today, adjusted for inflation, and at his peak, Rockefeller's net worth would be equal to $24.7 billion today. These three men are widely believed to be some of the richest men to have ever lived, to this day acting as sort of figureheads for the success of American capitalism and the power of big business. Of course, beyond the mind-boggling wealth these and their contemporaries like William Randolph Hearst and Henry Ford accrued, it's admittingly hard to ignore the cost to dollars gained or the massive amount of unskilled labor needed to maintain their massive empires. There is always a human cost to everything, regardless of automation. To accrue so much wealth requires labor that these supposed great entrepreneurs couldn't possibly do themselves. This was a time of vast wealth disparity and transition of America into an industrial power, where large companies paid the Pinkertons, a private security firm based in Chicago dating back to 1850, to break up worker protests with violence and intimidation, where mass urbanization led to cramped tenement and slum housing for immigrants, a time when it was easy to exploit the poor working class because they had nothing else. There is a reason why this time was called the Gilded Age. So let's talk about Hardspace Shipbreaker. Hardspace Shipbreaker released in early access on 2020 before releasing fully in May of 2022, is a simulation puzzle game about breaking apart derelict spacecraft in zero gravity. It's the early 24th century and, well, things suck. The positives are that humanity has discovered a form of sublight space travel which allows us to colonize most of the solar system. The downsides are, well, everything else. Earth is a polluted hellhole ravaged by climate change and generally crappy living conditions. There's rogue AI in the fringes of human-controlled space, and a massive corporation called Lynx controls all transportation within the solar system. The advent of space travel has created a lot of junk just floating in the void. There's a lot of people who need work and a lot of space junk to recycle, and Lynx is ready to provide a service to humanity. Cut to you. You're an average Joe in need of work. You decide to sign up for their Shipbreaker program under the threat of crushing poverty and starvation. Of course, the minute you decide to sign the contract, you're immediately slapped with $1.2 billion of debt. After you hold E to give your fingerprint, you are effectively company property like the outdated tools in the rented Hab unit to the Everwork program, which takes your genetic material to create clones just in case you die on the job. And people die all the time on this job, but it's okay. Nary a cracked visor, nor an accidental incineration, or violent explosive decompression will stop you from working off that debt. But thankfully you're not alone. There are other folks in your yard to keep you from getting too lonely. There's Weaver, your foreman and mentor, Cato, the nervous newbie, Lou, the tough lady, and Deedee, the young crusader. Even though the player only ever interacts with these characters via voiceover, all the characters are distinct and very well acted and downright likable. Weaver's folksy charm makes him instantly endearing, Cato is nervous without being annoying, and even Deedee manages to be a righteous, compelling presence when the plot gets going. These are all believable characters, just folks trying to do their jobs and making small talk while on the clock. In fact, the audio overall is stellar. The twangy country music sets a great mood while drifting along working on ships, and your equipment picks up rogue radio signals and crackles and pops, which adds to the sense that you're working with tools that are getting a bit too old for use. There's a great sense of claustrophobia to the audio as well. You are, after all, a squishy man in a tiny suit. One crack means all your fluids get sucked out through a small hole, among the many other ways you can die in this game. As for the gameplay, how is it? Well, can untying a knot be zen? Because that's what this game feels like. The basic loop consists of waking up and picking up ships to crack open and salvage. After selecting a ship, you're sent into the game proper. From here, you crack open the ships bit by bit, sorting each piece into color-coded bins. Scrap is burned so it goes in red, salvage is reclaimed so it goes in blue, and the other assorted items like consoles, chairs, and lights that can be reused goes to green. Every piece thrown in the correct bin gets you more money earned to pay down your massive debt. With 15 minutes in a shift, you must salvage as much as you can, as correctly as you can, as fast as possible. If your time runs out, you'll pick up right where you left off the previous shift. There isn't a huge rush to get everything finished on time. Get as much done as you can until the clock runs out, then start up the next day. This gives the game an oddly relaxing atmosphere. Somewhat tedious, sure, but effectively capturing what it feels like to do a menial job. You wake up, you punch in, you do your work for your shift, and then when your shift's over, you wake up and do it all over again. Occasionally characters pop in to give you some advice or strike up one-sided conversations, but otherwise you're left to drift and cut to your heart's content. There's an almost serene quality that comes from puttering around and looking for points to cut on a ship, searching for the best spot to open it up without hurting yourself or the bounty inside. With enough practice with your tools, you can get some great mobility and get pretty creative with managing large trains of junk once you get the hang of it. The job is repetitive, but it's important work in the context of the world, and it's not the worst thing ever. It's just super dangerous and requires a certain kind of mind to do it well, and having $1 billion of debt forced upon you doesn't help things either. As for your tools, you have a tether and a laser cutter and later remote charges. In addition, you've got vision modes from your visor that help you pick out specific portions of the ships. You're going to need those because these ships get dense. There are so many individual pieces and bits and bobs to detach and toss away that you'll risk losing extra cash if you're not careful. Each ship has a set number of goals to meet by sorting salvage correctly. Each goal met nets you Lynx tokens, which you can use to upgrade your gear or buy repair kits. As it turns out, Lynx doesn't supply its workers with up-to-date equipment, so the more you use it, the more it's likely to stall. Barring that, you can purchase repair kits and other things like oxygen tanks and fuel, but that comes out of your profits reaped. You don't want to act like you're earning something, do you? As the game progresses, your jobs become more difficult and the ships more complicated. You've got to learn the layout of these ships quickly if you want to take them apart safely and quickly. Because aside from losing oxygen and large hunks of space junk, there's also things like electricity, fire damage, explosive decompression, and even the odd nuclear meltdown. When you must juggle so many elements in the late game, shipbreaking gets stressful, and you need to juggle not destroying too much of the ship to maximize the amount of money earned. Do you cut a portion of the hull to let the air out and risk losing a hair of profit? How about cutting away a portion of the hull before removing the nuclear reactor? Did I mention that those explode violently after a time? And remember, if you die on the job, no biggie. The Everwork program gets you back in the game. No mess, no fuss. Just a strand of your DNA legally owned by the company and then you're golden. Dying on the job is a simple clone and literal downloading your consciousness into a new body. Yes, in this future, we've discovered immortality and it's used as a means to keep you working. But make sure you don't die too often lest you end up with a genetic defect that leaves you unable to work. Then you'll never pay that debt down in time. That, in essence, is what your day at the yard will be like. You wake up repeatedly to your corporate overlords telling you how to be productive, you claim a ship, and get right to work breaking down that sweet junk for the sake of a company that owns your very DNA. They nickel and dime you at every turn, charging you for literally everything down to the junky equipment they are graciously lending you, the hab unit you needed to survive in a vacuum lest you die in the cold void of space, taking a majority of the profits that should be yours, but of course are taken by the company, in addition to earning company currency to give you the privilege to even afford better gear to, do your job better. Everything's fine. Just shut up and get back to work. You're not paid to think or consider the fact that you're being exploited and literally nothing is getting done about it. It's the norm. That's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to be exploited. Besides, it's your own fault that you're desperate and seeking work. Never mind that you have no rights as a Lynx employee. That's the way things are supposed to be, and woe to you for questioning the aims of the company. So, kindly, shut up and get back to work. You owe $1.2 billion. If you haven't noticed, the world of Hardspace Shipbreaker is frankly, shitty. It's a world of contradiction, a time where humanity has colonized space and reaches ever farther into the stars, but at the expense of the working class. A world of enormous technological innovation and progress on the back of regular people who are just trying to survive. It is, effectively, a new Gilded Age. You and the rest of the crew are forced to work in the most dangerous environment known to man, doing a difficult job that very few would have the conviction or attention to perform, and for essentially no pay. Meanwhile, there are figures so far above you that reap the untold billions of profits off the work you and millions of other workers perform day in and day out under threat of poverty and certain death. You are free free labor with no rights, reduced to faceless agents and forced to live in what is effectively a work camp penal colony. You strip ships day in and day out, desperately trying to chip away at the burden of debt imposed upon you by the company to keep you in a state of indentured servitude. This takes wage slavery to a whole new level. What's worse, the only payment you receive is, in essence, fake money supplied by the company. The Lynx tokens you earn are not unlike the practice of paying employees in company scrip instead of actual money. Instead of giving an actual income, employees rely on their employer for everything. And believe it or not, the concept of a massive debt designed to entrap workers has historical precedent. Immigrants living in the coal mining towns of Appalachia at the turn of the 20th century were subjected to this. Forced into debt they were unable to pay off due to being compensated in a microeconomy that had no value anywhere else. The shipbreakers are the same way, forced to take a job due to economic pressures, then shipped out to a remote area with virtually no way of easy exit, then paid useless currency designed to keep them under the thumb of their employer with little hope of actual monetary value. But Lynx doesn't care. Lynx barely knows you exist. You and the rest of the crew are just names on a sheet, one of possible millions in space forced into this situation by no fault of their own. But Lynx is one of the only games in town, and they've rigged it in their favor. You're worth less than nothing to them, just another body to throw into the pile. And with the power of the Everwork program, they have reduced the working man down to a number on an accounting sheet, barely worth considering for anything other than a small cut into their bottom line. This is completely unethical, of course, but as we all know, the balance of power is dramatically skewed in favor of Lynx. The drawback of modern technology is that the best aspects often benefit those who first access it, that is, the absurdly wealthy. But there is one thing they fear. A boogeyman, if you will, that Lynx doesn't want anyone to find out about and actively suppresses information about. Its name is not whispered aloud by mortal men. It is a terrible force that would certainly undo the control that Lynx holds in the human race. It is a malignant force known only by the foulest of words. The Workers' Union. But Lynx has worked hard to scrub the concept from the public consciousness. Their reach is far and wide, infiltrating every arm of communication and mass media in a centuries-long misinformation campaign to prevent the rest of the populace from seizing just a small amount of control back from the company. In spite of their massive influence over humanity, Lynx understands the workers outnumber them, and they realize the best way to keep their workforce compliant is indirect intimidation. Enter Hal Rhodes. He's our closest representative of the company. That is, he's oafish and incompetent, reading off whatever protocol Lynx feeds him because he's told to. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing half the time. Having been brought in to deal with suspicious activity about these so-called unions, he uses what little authority he possesses to push you and the crew around, at points endangering your lives because of some useless company mandate about yoga. Hal especially picks on Kato, singling out the poor kid for his nervous nature and even threatening his life by deleting Kato's DNA stock while on a power trip and deactivating his suit to send the guy floating helplessly into an open furnace to burn alive. Even the even-keeled Weaver begins to clash with the dunce as Hal's abuse of his powers becomes too great. The actions Hal takes are heinous and reprehensible, but he's as much a puppet of the company as you are. The only difference is that he thinks the system can work for him. He not only accepts the world as it is, but revels in the minor advantages his position allows. He's a moron with authority, and that small authority makes him dangerous. So what's a disadvantaged, disaffected workforce to do when a massive corporation effectively controls their lives down to owning their very DNA? What do you do when a company effectively runs your life and can take away your very freedom and livelihood with a single signature on paper? What do you do when your adversary effectively runs all transportation on an interplanetary scale? Well, you attack their income stream. You keep them from getting richer. You go on strike. After an altercation that causes the momentary disappearance of one of your crewmates, the remaining cutters decide to join a system-wide effort to protest Lynx's use of the Everwork program. Weaver uses his own authority as supervisor to aid the cutters in intentionally costing Lynx money. It's a brilliant reversal of the pre-established game mechanics bolstered by a solid narrative intersection. For an entire mission, you're given infinite time to hit a negative goal. For this, you're meant to sort the parts of the ship in the wrong bins. Meanwhile, Hal is chattering in your ear trying to encourage you to keep doing your job. It's a brilliant synergy of gameplay and narrative, demonstrating a strong understanding of the power of activity as narrative combined with context. The zen of shipbreaking is no longer a thing of menial beauty, it is now a tool, a weapon against oppression. Your labor is no longer something to be exploited, it is power. It is the very thing that brings Link's wealth turned against itself. It is a loud and powerful sign of the protest that will tell Link something that it has not allowed itself to hear for many years. We are not slaves. We are not tools. We are people, and the reason for Link's existence. They are nothing without us, and woe to the man who thinks they can treat us like property. Sure enough, it pays off. The debt is drastically reduced, the overwork program is ended, and once the last debts are paid off, the player is allowed to finally terminate their contract with Lynx or join Deedee on a new future at Jupiter. Lynx hasn't been dissolved. That's functionally impossible. They're too massive and entrenched in humanity's industry for that to happen in your lifetime. But small victories count, and hopefully they'll think twice about exploiting their workers again. Hopefully. One of my favorite movies is Paul Verhoeven's Robocop. To many, it's the quintessential 80s sci-fi action movie next to the likes of Aliens or Terminator. It's the ultra-violent tale of a near-future Detroit besieged by crime where a cop is murdered and resurrected as a lethal cyborg come Christ metaphor. But my personal favorite aspect of the film is the titular character's journey. Robocop, or Alex Murphy, was a normal man, a good man, with a family and a devotion to serve and protect. After a chance encounter with sociopathic thugs leaves him in pieces, the megacorporation OCP that has bought literally everything in Detroit, including the police force, decides to use Murphy's dying brain against his will to act as the first candidate for the Robocop program, itself a product initiated by an executive for reasons of potential military application as part of a glorified boardroom pissing contest. Murphy's memories are erased, and in their place he is given prime directives, programming in place of a soul. He's reduced to a bag of organs in a robotic shell, robbed of the privilege of death, and transformed into a product for a company that couldn't care less about what he felt about the matter. But little events transpire to remind Murphy of his identity. His partner Lewis reminds him of who he is, who he used to be. That little spark ignites a dormant shard of Murphy's consciousness, and he sets out to solve his own murder. His quest leads him to the men who facilitated his death until he is forced to escape from a second death with his partner. By the end of the film, Murphy's mask is removed and he finally sees what the company has taken from him. It's a profoundly tragic moment for a film about a robot cop shooting a mugger in the dick. Just one of many reasons to love this film. By the end of the movie, after shooting the bad guy and saving the day, the CEO of OCP asks their cyborg for his name, and our hero, our knight in chrome armor, tells him,
Murphy.
Murphy has not toppled OCP, he has not destroyed the evil empire by the end, but he has regained a semblance of his humanity. The company tried to take everything from him. His family, his body, his memories, but they can't take his soul. They can't take the man from the machine. There's no easy way to dismantle oppressive systems, but remembering your fundamental humanity is the greatest weapon of all. Hardspace Shipbreaker is a brilliant example of how to weave narrative and theme into gameplay. It's a testament to the power that games can have to tell stories through action and the ability to communicate theme through experience alone. Coupled with a powerful and unexpected statement about the importance of dignity in labor, it dares to be a modern classic that should be remembered for years to come. Nothing in life is free, at least under capitalism. Everything, it seems, needs a monetary value attached to it to determine what it is worth in the wider economy. That's just the fact of the economic system we must operate under. But the work people perform to provide goods and services to the wider world is just as valuable, if not more so, and those men and women deserve to be treated with respect, to be paid fairly, to be allowed to live their lives outside of the menial jobs most of us are aware of but would rather not do. Those are the people that matter the most. They are the reason why we have our cars, our iPhones, everything we take for granted in modern society. Too many times throughout the history of the industrialized world have workers been treated as less than because it's easier for a company's bottom line. Too often have people remained poor because of lack of pay or died due to terrible working conditions. There are plenty of people willing to do a task few others wish to do if they're compensated and looked after. We've reached a point in history where the richest living man on earth is worth $120 billion. He sits among others who reap massive monetary gain off the backs of so many. Meanwhile, wages have stagnated since the 70s, and after the COVID outbreak, millions of Americans were either out of a job or tired of poor treatment and working conditions. Long hours for minimal pay despite the volume of work performed doesn't sound like a great deal, so no wonder we're seeing an upswing resulting in workers' protests and pushes for unionization. Over the past 2 years alone, workers in Amazon warehouses to even game companies have been seeking to unionize if it means better treatment and pay. These people are the backbone of the economy, the reason why we have our precious products. Without them, things grind to a halt. So, is it too much for a bit of fairness for your labor?